Well, everybody, welcome to Prayer Room Neapolis. Here we are. This space is one of Meta Horizon workrooms, spaces for virtual meetings, and I've decked this out to be our new virtual prayer room. So I decorated the room with this Hebrews 13:14. I also decorated the sign over there. It says, "Be still and know that I'm God." So this is a pretty clever headset. This is me. I've got two controllers in my hands, and so I can navigate and interact with my world here. And what's pretty interesting is my face is being tracked and my mouth is being tracked. So when I move my eyes to the right or to the left, they are actually moving in my avatar. So if you're in this virtual world looking at me and I'm moving my eyes to the right or to the left or all around, they change to replicate my facial expressions. In fact, I can wiggle my eyebrows. I like this. I can smile. Oh, yeah. I can wink. Oh, yeah. So all of that is meant to communicate natural emotion to one another, even if we appear in these sort of cartoon forms. The computer can also track my hands, so I can move my individual digits. Of course, these are cartoon hands. They're not exactly my real hands, but I can do some fairly complicated maneuvers. I can touch, for example, that's touching my fingers in real life. I guess the tracking isn't perfect. Sophie!
Hi, Daddy. Good day.
What do you think of this, Sophie?
Ooh.
Let's try another one. What do you think of this room?
Whoa. Now I can't see the whiteboard, but I can see you, and I really like it because I can see the beach.
Oh, you get a nice beach view there?
Yeah.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Well, after this meeting, we can go surfing together. Let's go back to the breakout room, because I think that's probably the one that's going to serve us best. Okay?
Oh.
There we go. Now, I'm going to go to the whiteboard, and I'd like to teach a lesson here. Why do we call this space Prayer Room Neapolis? Well, let me tell you a little story. In Acts 15, Paul leaves from Jerusalem up here, and then heads up back to Asia Minor. Paul wants to go to Ephesus, and the Holy Spirit forbids him. He thinks maybe he can go up to the north, up to Pontus, and the Spirit of Jesus forbids Paul, so Paul kind of loses track of what he's doing. Paul the Apostle doesn't usually get lost, but he's a little bit lost at this point, and Paul there receives a vision to go to Macedonia. So Paul heads up from Troas to Neapolis. There we have it on the map. Neapolis. This is the first city in the continent of Europe that Paul lands on. And it's called Neapolis, or New City, because it's a port city that the Romans built for the colony of Philippi. My mentor at the University of Oxford, Peter Walker, took myself and a handful of other people from England to go walk in the footsteps of St. Paul. And we spent one night in Neapolis. This is the picture that I took of the city of Neapolis that night in the spring of 2008. And this is the ancient harbor somewhere in this field of view where Paul would have landed and stepped foot on the European continent for the first time. And while I was there, I picked up this rock, found it in the beach. I've kept this rock with me. It's particularly triangular or perhaps heart-shaped, so I thought it was a beautiful rock, and I picked it up on that night that I arrived here in Neapolis. And Neapolis means new city. Many might think that this is a strange context for us to gather in virtual reality and pray, learn to disciple one another, encourage one another. But in fact, the beach has a long history of being a place where Christians are discipled or practice discipleship. For example, in Matthew 13:1-2, we read, "That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea, and great crowds gathered about him so that he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd stood on the beach." That's where Jesus did a lot of his teaching, on the beach. Maybe not a virtual beach, but close enough. We also read about when Paul is leaving Tyre on his way to Jerusalem. We read, "When our days there were ended, we departed and went on our journey, and they all, with wives and children, accompanied us until we were outside the city. And kneeling down on the beach, we prayed and said farewell to one another. Then we went on board the ship, and they returned home." So there are lots of great verses in the Bible about moments of Christian discipleship or prayer that takes place on the beach. It's not just a place for vacation. It can also be a place of Christian discipleship. Over there, as you enter into the building, we have Hebrews 13:14, and I've got the same poster here in large format, and you can see clearly it says, "For here we have no lasting city, but we seek the city that is to come." Neapolis means new city, and we remember that whether it's arriving in the continent of Europe for the first time or whether it's arriving in a new venue like virtual reality, we can consecrate those places to God because it doesn't matter where we are. We're seeking not the city that's here, but we're seeking a city that is to come.